Hello RC Flyers, this is Ron, and I've got a video here that I'm going to share with you about how to use your 14SG, set up your decoder channels with the SBD1, or how to set up your telemetry. We're going to go through both of them. So for those of you that are interested in this and have never gotten into it, I think this might be very helpful. We're going to be looking at two particular receivers here today. This particular one right here is a 7006 SB receiver. I don't know how well you can see it there in the video. It is it's listed as a 6 channel receiver, and you can get 6 channels out of it if you want to use it in the fast mode. But what we're going to be doing is setting it up to use in the fast test mode, and you'll have 4 receiver channels available on this, plus your serial bus channels. You can add up to 3 channels there, so give you a total of 7 channels through this particular receiver. And then you can also have your telemetry set up on it. So for those of you that might have a 4-channel plane that you want to fly and you just want to set up some telemetry on it, that's an excellent choice of a receiver to use. You know, like I say, you can get up to 7 channels out of it. The other receiver that we're going to be looking at is the 7008 SB, and I wanted to go ahead and just mention that on this particular video for the simple reason that this is the one that comes with the 14SG when you buy the whole system. So everybody has this particular receiver available to them. You can take it and add on with the SBD1 decoder. You can add up to 3 more channels with it, so you can take that 7-channel receiver and turn it into 10 channels if you so desire. You can actually put a second one on there if you want to. But basically, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be using the 6 channel that I showed you, the 7006 SB, to set up these things and go through it. But it's exactly the same setup whether you're using the 7-channel or the 6-channel receiver. Just a couple of things I'll point out to you here. One, the 7006 SB as well as the 7008 SB, both of these ship in the mode that has this telemetry and the serial bus available. So that's the way it will come to you, so you'll be able to use fast test mode without having to change anything about the modes on this. I will mention this, the polarity on the 7006 has the polarity channel down, which is no problem if you're using Futaba servos, because you have to put it in the correct way where the tab goes into the slot. However, if you're using high-tech servos or another brand of servos, you can hook the servos into it upside down. This is the only receiver I've actually come across that is that way in the Futaba receivers. Maybe others, but I'll just mention it. On the 7008, the polarity tab is up. So you've got your 4 basic channels plus telemetry, 7 basic channels plus telemetry, and you have the SBD port or the serial bus port on both of these. I'll mention this also. Setup and use of the serial bus decoder and telemetry is the same for both receivers. The serial bus decoder allows you to use standard servos on your serial bus. You cannot use standard servos just off of your serial bus unless you're using the decoder. A little information here, the serial bus channel programmer, which is actually necessary to set up the SBD1, is available to you. It costs $30, which is a relatively insignificant price. You have your SBD1, you have your SBD3 decoder. That is only a 1-channel decoder, runs you about $35. Then you have the 3-channel decoder, which is what I'm going to be setting up here in the video, is the SBD1 decoder, and that is about $70. So either one of these decoders that you happen to use, you're still going to have the SBC1 channel programmer in order to set it up for operation. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into the actual setup here in just a couple moments. Now these are the components that we'll be using for setting this up. Have your SBD1, and this is actually your serial bus decoder. I don't know if you can see this real good, but there is a diagram on top of which connector is which. But the way this works out, and I've got it on the printed material that we're going to be looking at, the top one is number 1 connector, SX1. The middle connector is SX2, and the bottom connector is SX3. Now it comes with some small channel numberings, and with the setup that we're going to be using here today, I've taken and put number 5 on the SX1, went ahead and labeled 6 on the SX2, the middle connector, and I've labeled number 7 for the SX3 connector. So this is what we're going to be using, and this is going to expand our 6-channel receiver. Actually, we have four channels actually active on it in the mode that we have, and this will expand it to 7 channels. Now on the end of the SBD1, you have your serial bus connecting port, or connector that goes into the serial bus port on the receiver, and then you've got your other 3 connectors. Also got nothing more than a switch and a 2000 milliamp battery pack for the power on this, and then you'll notice also we've got the SBC channel setter. Try and get this where you can get a little bit better view of it. Alright, that's about as good as we're going to do. It'll be a little bit difficult for you to see exactly what's going on as I'm setting it, but the explanation is really quite easy, so I don't think anyone's going to have any problems with it. I'm going to leave this screen up for probably about 30 seconds. This should give you all the information you'll need as far as the programming of the SD1 using the SBC1. At any rate, it's got everything listed on here. It's got a step-by-step directions for going through this, and like I say, it will be left up for long enough for you if you would choose to. You can stop the video, you can take your phone, make a copy of it, or take a picture of this particular screen if you would like to. But all the printed materials for this video will be available to you through YouTube. Just pull up the video, look in the information screen concerning this video, and you will find a link that will allow you to download this printed material in a JPG form. Then you can store it on your computer, you can print it out, whatever your choice is. I just like to have this stuff on hand myself, and I know that there's a lot of people that do. So that will be available to you. Alright, now we're ready to go ahead and get our channel set on our SBD1 decoder, and we are using the channel setting tool, which is the SBC1. We already have our serial bus connector plugged up from the decoder, have the battery power going in here on the bottom slot, have it connected up to a 6-volt battery with a switch, and as I turn it on, you'll notice we're getting a single flash. That flash is saying that we are ready to go ahead and set the channel on the number 1, the SX1, or the top wire coming out on our SBD1. So the first thing we're going to do is put the screwdriver over here in the slot, and I'm rotating it around to channel number 5, which is what I want. We're using the 7006 serial bus receiver, and the first 4 channels are going to be your standard channels: aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder. So now I'm setting number 5 on my serial bus. After I rotate, select the channel, then I just put the screwdriver down in the switch. I press it down for about 2 seconds. You'll see the LED starts flashing, and when it stops and has a solid light, just like you're seeing right now, the channel is set. Alright, we're going to set the middle connector next. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my screwdriver, put in here in the switch, and I'm just going to give it a quick tap. Now you'll notice that we're getting a 2-flash pattern. A 2-flash pattern indicating that we are ready to set the channel for SX2, which is the middle connector. So once again, I'm going in here to the channel select dial. I'm going to rotate it to channel 6. Alright, I have it rotated to channel 6. We're getting the dual flash. So the only thing I have to do at this point is put my screwdriver back in here, press down till it starts flashing. When we get the solid light, it is set. Next thing, same thing I've been doing. I will just give a quick tap on the switch. Now you'll notice that we've got a 3-pattern LED light. So I'm going over to my channel selects dial. I'm going to advance that to channel 7. I'm ready to go ahead and lock it in, so I put my screwdriver back here to the switch, press down, hold it about 2 seconds. The LED starts flashing, and that channel is set. So now we have everything set as far as our SBD1 channels are concerned, SX1 being the top, SX2 being the middle, and SX3 being the bottom wire, the way it's set up in our connector. Alright, you'll notice that I have everything hooked up. I've got 3 servos over here mounted. We have our connectors connected here to the SBD1 decoder. I have my receiver here. You'll notice the only thing that's plugged into the receiver is the battery. I've got the battery plugged into the SBD2 port, and then of course I've got the decoder plugged into the SB port. I think most of you are probably aware, but you can actually pick up your battery power from any port on the receiver. It doesn't really matter which one. So I've got this plugged in. We've got channels 5, 6, and 7. Channel 5 operating here. Channel 6 here. Channel 7 is hooked up with my throttle. So I've got a two engine setup for this, using it on an albatross. So that will be working in conjunction with channel 3. So we've got all 3 of our channels operating here, just operating solely off of the serial bus port. So that is our desired outcome. This is the screen for our telemetry setup. I have a picture here of the GPS unit itself. This is a fairly small unit. It's about 1.5 inches in length, about 1/2 inch in height, and it's about 3/4 of an inch in the width. So it's fairly easy to locate in your aircraft. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that this particular side here where you've got the lettering on it needs to be facing the top of the aircraft. That way it allows it to get a very good signal from the satellites themselves. Also, you do not want anything above it, and I'm talking about something like a battery pack or some kind, even servos above it that would interfere with the signal that it's receiving. This telemetry setup screen, we're going to do it in 3 different stages here. But this, just like all of the other printed material, is going to be available to you through a link that I will have in the description section of the actual video itself on YouTube. That'll take you directly to the download area to where you can take it and download it in JPG format if that's what you desire to do. So the first thing we're going to do is to actuate the telemetry for our transmitter. Alright, you'll notice here that I'm already into the aircraft on the home screen of the transmitter. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the link menu, and then we're going into the system portion of the link menu. This is actually our link screen, and this is showing our voltage where we're going to be having the cutoff for our battery warning, that kind of a thing. Also, here is where you actuate your telemetry for the transmitter itself, and you have a download speed. Default on that is 1.0 seconds. So with that being said, you want to make sure that you have your telemetry actuated. I do not know if it is actually necessary or not, but it's something that I always do anytime I try and change anything, any one of these values on the link screen. I will go ahead and I will rebind my receiver. So that's got it set up there. So we're just going to back out of that. Now we're going to enter our system menu. Two taps on system takes us into it, and you'll notice here there is a sound menu inside this. So we'll tap into that. I turn everything on: timer, warning, telemetry, and all other sounds. I want all the assistance I can get from my transmitter, and then you will have all of your warning signals, that kind of a thing, telemetry sounds on. Going to the second page, you have a phone volume. This varies from 0 to 30. You also have other sound volume. I've got it set at 20. I think this is in the range of 0 to 30 also. So anyway, these two settings here, the 10 and the 20, gives me plenty of sound. You've adjusted, of course, according to your preferences. So we can just back out of that. And at this point, we are set up as far as our transmitter is concerned to handle the GPS information that it gets. So with that, we'll be going on down, and we will first be setting up our screens that we'll use to monitor this information. Alright, now we're going to set up our monitor screen so that we can get the speed readings off of our GPS system. So the first thing we're going to do is press the home exit button, and this takes us into our telemetry screen. You'll notice at this point we've got two items showing on the screen. First one is the actual voltage at our receiver battery. This is built in to the 7008 SB receiver. You have an option to put an external voltage monitor or sensor that plugs into your receiver. What we're going to do is go down to the second screen. we're in the external voltage. We want to go to the receiver, which is the actual item. Then we'll go to the next screen, which is our telemetry monitoring. Then we will scroll down to receiver. We don't want to read from the receiver now. What we want to do is set up to read from our GPS unit. So what we want to do is just select that. Just a single tap on the returns button. Then you want to scroll through, and what we're looking for is the SBS 01G. Here we have it, SBS 01/02G. There are actually two GPS units available from Futaba. The SBS 01, they'll run you right around $100. That's exactly what I have here that we're setting up. There is a 02 also now that is available. It's supposed to be a little bit more sensitive. It runs right around $160. But we've got our SBS 01 selected, so we'll hit our return button. Then we're going back down to the next position. This is the actual items that are available on the GPS unit. So you've got distance, speed, altitude, and vario. What we want is our speed. So we're going to select that. Then we're just going to back right out of the menu. Now we have two items set up. One of them is going to be the receiver battery power at the receiver. The other one is going to be reading from the GPS, the actual speed of the aircraft that's moving. Now at this point we have two items that we're able to read on our display. One of them, of course, is the receiver battery. The second one is the item we just set up, which is our speed. What we would like to do is go ahead and have three items that's available to us. So what we want to do is add one more item to this display screen. So what we're going to do is come down here. We're going to hit our return button. Now we want to just scroll down to the number 2. Press return. Now you're saying that I want a third window when you change that to 3. You hit your return button, and at this point you'll notice everything disappears. Why? Because you've not had anything in your third slot. We've just created it. So we're going down to sensor. First thing we want to do is find what sensor we want in this third window. We hit our return. We start scrolling through. You're looking at your receiver right now. This is the item holding the sensors. So once again, we're going to return to our SBS 01G. Here we have it, SBS 0102G. So that's the particular one that we want. So we're going to select it. Now then, we scroll down one more position. What do we want to monitor here? We've already set up speed. Now we're going to set up for altitude. So we're selecting altitude. Now we're going to scroll back out of this, and you'll notice at this point we now have 3 items showing on our screen, and that's the 3 items that I particularly choose to monitor. Even though we've got another item on the GPS, it's not anything that I choose to have. I fly mostly scale items, scale planes, and warbirds, and at this point I don't really want to know the actual distance. I just want the altitude, I want the speed, and I certainly don't care about the vario being set up on my warbirds. However, if you're flying a glider, that vario is extremely useful to you. So with that, we've got that one set up now. This is our final sheet of information concerning our telemetry setup. As we are looking at this particular page, we'll have it up here for a short time. Make sure your decoder is secured inside the plane using two-sided tape. Make sure also that your GPS unit is secured in the plane in the same manner. We already have our telemetry totally set up. The only problem with that is that it is showing on a screen. That makes it very difficult for you to know what's going on, and the telemetry is not doing you a whole lot of good when you can't take your eyes off of the plane in order to look at it. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to set up the telemetry to where you can throw a switch, and that switch will enable you to choose what information you want and when you want to hear it. So this is going to be a tremendous help. We're actually going to be using two switches, and both of them in the center position are going to be no report, no information coming. It is necessary, of course, to use the earphones. I like to use maybe just an earphone in maybe my right ear, and I get plenty of information. I can hear everything very, very easily, and yet my left ear is clear. That way, if there's any announcements going on the flight line about people taking off, people landing, dead sticks, whatever, and I can still hear that. So we're going to get into this, and I'll show you in just a couple moments how we're going to get this set up. We're now ready to go ahead and set up our telemetry monitoring for the battery. First thing we're going to do, home exit takes us right back to our telemetry monitoring screen. Go down, select receiver battery. Now on this screen, let me see if I can get it a little bit closer in for you. On this screen, you've got your min max, this min and max is going to be information for you after your flight is over. It's going to give you the minimum and the maximum readings on your receiver battery during the flight. Now we're going down to the alert, and we're going to actuate the alert. You've either got one of two choices, inhibit or actuate. We want to get an alert, and that alert is going to be in a downward direction. 5.6 volts is where I've got it set. You can set that at any particular voltage you want to. This is a good place to have it set if you're using a 6-volt battery pack, nickel metal hydride. If you're using Life or LiPo batteries, then you'll want to adjust that accordingly. But at any rate, anytime now, I've got it actuated, 5.6 volts. So anytime that this battery pack gets down to 5.6 volts or lower, I'm going to get a vocal alert through my earphone. We'll go on now. You have the choice of actuating some vibes on here, setting vibes along with your vocal alert. I choose not to do so. I'm going to the next page. We're going down to the speech. We want to make sure that we have the speech actuated. You've got two choices, actuate or inhibit. I'm going over, I've already got this set for switch C. Enter it. That takes me to your switch setting. You notice switch C is already flashing. So I'm going down and just scrolling right on over till I get to my on off. This allows me to set up the on off screen the way that I choose. And so what I want to do is go down to the very rearward position on switch C. I want that off. I also want the center position off. and I want it on. Actually, on this battery, I am telling you wrong. I really want I want it on the rearward position, and then I want it off on the other two positions. So I've got it set now the way that I want it. So I'll just back out of that one more time, and I'm right back to the telemetry monitoring screen. What this is going to do is with the switch C, of course, anytime I've got it pulled rearward from the center position, I'm going to get a reading on my receiver battery. Tell me exactly what the receiver voltage is, or the voltage is at the receiver at that time. I'm getting no report when it's in the center position, and then I'm going to set up in the forward position to where I'm going to be getting my speed report. So I'll be using the center position off, and then either direction that I move the switch, I will get, at my choosing, the battery or the speed reading off of my GPS unit. Let's go ahead and get our speed set up at this point. We're just going to go down, select speed, it's in the second window, hit the return button to select it. On this front page, not really anything we're that interested in changing. Here you're going to have these two dotted lines. One of them, while you're flying, will show you your current airspeed. The other one will show you your maximum airspeed. So this is good information once you get down before you shut off your transmitter, because it will reset when you turn off the transmitter. But you will be able to pull up this screen and see what your maximum speed was. Same situation with altitude. So anyway, we're going to look at this. Alert, we really don't need an alert set. This threshold is immaterial. Vibes are there if you're setting an alert and you so choose to. Going ahead and select the second page by hitting the S2 button. And once again, you can set up an alert if you so choose. The only thing that we're really interested in at this point is coming down to speech. We want to hit the return key, actuate speech. Then we want to go over here to the switch, enter the switch, go down to switch C, enter to set up the switch, and on the switch C, for our speed, we're going to have off in the center position. We're going to have the rearward position off. And we're going to have the forward position on. So now we're just going to back out of this. Going back to our monitoring screen, that has our speed set up. Well, there was one thing I wanted to show you on this speed though. We're going to the second page. Now you'll notice here with my switch C, when I turn that on, you get it on showing here on this screen to show what position your switch is in and what it's doing. So in the bottom position it's off, middle position it's off, but in the top position it's on, and at that point it's going to start giving us some readouts on our speed. So let's just back out of this, going right on over, and we're going to set up our altitude. Select altitude. Now on this front screen, once again, you're going to get a maximum reading available to you for the maximum height that you reach during your flight. Once again, I emphasize, while your transmitter is still on, you can get that reading. Once you turn your transmitter off, it's gone. It will reset for the next flight. Now then, I am setting up an alert here. I have this actuated for an alert. For those of you that are very concerned or your field limits you to the actual 400-foot altitude for your proximity to a close by airport or whatever, you may want to do this. Set an upwards threshold somewhere around 375 feet. Once you reach that altitude, then you're going to get a verbal alarm through your earphones letting you know that you have exceeded that altitude. So that's just a good way to make sure that you don't go above the altitude that you so choose. Now let's go to the second page. Got the alert turned off. Not really interested in that. You can set up vibes and an alert if you so choose. Main thing we're interested in is coming down. Once again, we want to make sure our speech is activated. And what I'm doing here is I have this set up on switch D. I've already set it up. You can see switch D is already showing, but we're still going over and just take a quick look at it. Go down to switch D. Switch D is actually selected. It's flashing. You can go right on over. Enter your switch setup screen. Switch D. Bottom position off. Center position off. On in the forward position. So I'm going to back out of this. Back out of that. Once again, right here, when I move my switch for switch D, you'll see that it shows on right here on this screen. That way you can check before you leave the screen and make sure that it's working exactly the way you had anticipated or intended. So we're going to back out of that. We're right back to our monitoring screen. So with that, we've got everything set up that we need to be operating as far as our GPS is concerned. So I will go ahead and set up a little mock-up and let you see exactly what you can expect out of these settings. Alright, now we have our telemetry set up. We've gone through all the settings. We have everything ready. I have the transmitter turned on at this stage. What I've done is I've taken and inserted a small amplified speaker back here into the earphone port, and this will just give you a little bit of an idea of how this is going to be.
Battery 6.3 volt.
Now then, center position off on my C switch.
Speed 0 miles per hour.
And if you leave it on, it will repeat itself. This is quite handy if you are setting up maybe for an approach or something 180 degrees out from your landing spot, and you can just switch it on. Not that it's true airspeed, it is ground speed. Virtually no difference though on a very calm day. If you've got a 5-mile-an-hour headwind, then there's going to be your actual reading for your ground speed is going to be about 5 miles per hour slower than what you're actually going. It's not a big mystery. We're not actually using this to land. It's just information that most of us are kind of curious about. All right, on the D switch, it's in the off position.
Altitude minus 7 feet. Altitude minus 10 feet.
You notice we're getting some minus readings here. I've been moving around up here a little bit, getting things set up and all. So anyway, this gives you a good idea of exactly what you can expect, and you can have your readings as you desire them time-wise. Have a good day. Don't forget that all of our printed information will be available to you from this video if you so desire. There will be a link in the information or description right underneath the video. You can click on that link and it'll take you directly to these pieces of printed material. There's actually 4 sheets in here that was used with the video. I appreciate your watching. I hope this will be helpful to you. Good flying.